What happens when an undercover boss is fired on her very first day? What happens when the person who holds the power to change everything is stripped of her authority before she even gets a chance to prove herself? This is the story of Clara Bennett, a woman who thought she had seen it all until life threw her into a situation she could never have imagined. Clara Bennett was not your typical CEO. She didn't wear power suits or sit in a corner office overlooking the city. She believed in rolling up her sleeves and getting her hands dirty. She believed in people, in their struggles, their dreams, and their potential. But most of all, she believed in fairness. That's why, when she took over as the CEO of a struggling retail chain called Brightmart, she decided to do something radical. She decided to go undercover. Brightmart was a company that had once been a household name. But over the years, poor management, lack of innovation, and a disconnect between the higher-ups and the employees had brought it to its knees. Clara knew that if she wanted to save the company, she needed to understand it from the ground up. And so, with a fake name and a simple disguise, she walked into one of Brightmart's busiest stores as Claire, a new hire. The store was located in a small town called Riverton. It was a place where everyone knew everyone, and life moved at a slower pace. Clara had chosen this store specifically because it was one of the worst-performing locations. She wanted to see why. She wanted to feel the pulse of the problem. Her first day started like any other new employees. She was given a name tag, a uniform, and a quick tour of the store. Her trainer was a woman named Marisol Reyes, a single mother, too, who had been working at Brightmart for over 10 years. Marisol was kind but tired. Her eyes told a story of long hours, low pay, and dreams that had been put on hold. "All right, Claire, welcome to Brightmart," Marisol said with a small smile. "Let's get you started." Clara nodded, trying to blend in. She noticed how Marisol's voice carried a hint of exhaustion, but also a quiet strength. It was the kind of strength that came from years of carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. The day went by quickly. Clara stocked shelves, helped customers, and tried to absorb everything she could. She noticed how the employees worked tirelessly, but also how they seemed disconnected from the company. There was no passion, no pride in their work. It was as if they were just going through the motions. But what struck Clara the most was the way the store manager, a man named Trent Holloway, treated his team. Trent was in his late 30s, with a sharp tongue and a colder demeanor. He barked orders, criticized openly, and seemed to care more about numbers than people. Clara watched as he belittled Marisol in front of everyone for a minor mistake. "Marisol, how many times do I have to tell you? The inventory counts need to be accurate. Do you even care about your job?" Trent snapped. Marisol's face flushed, but she didn't respond. She simply nodded and went back to work. Clara felt a knot form in her stomach. This wasn't leadership. This was bullying. As the day went on, Clara tried to engage with her co-workers. She learned that many of them were struggling to make ends meet. They worked multiple jobs, skipped meals, and lived in constant fear of losing their positions. Brightmart wasn't just a job for them. It was a lifeline, but it was a lifeline that was slowly choking them. By the end of the day, Clara was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. She had seen the cracks in the system, and they ran deep, but she was determined to fix them. She was determined to make things right. That's why what happened next came as a complete shock. As she was clocking out, Trent approached her. His expression was unreadable. "Claire, can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. Clara nodded, following him to a small office at the back of the store. She assumed it was just a routine end-of-day chat, but she was wrong. "I'm going to be honest with you," Trent began, leaning against the desk. "You're not a good fit for this team. You're slow. You ask too many questions, and you don't seem to understand how things work around here. I'm letting you go." Clara stared at him, stunned. She had been fired on her very first day. The irony wasn't lost on her. The CEO of Brightmart fired by a store manager who had no idea who she really was. For a moment, she considered revealing her identity. She could have ended the charade right then and there. But something stopped her. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe it was a realization that this was her chance to see the company from a perspective she never could have imagined. "I understand," she said quietly, handing over her name tag. "Thank you for the opportunity." Trent nodded, seemingly unaffected. "Good luck," he said, before turning back to his computer. Clara walked out of the store, her mind racing. She had been fired, but instead of feeling defeated, she felt motivated. She had seen the problems firsthand. She had felt the pain of the employees. And now, more than ever, she was determined to make a change. Over the next few days, Clara didn't return to her CEO role. Instead, she stayed in Riverton. She found a small apartment and took on odd jobs to make ends meet. She wanted to experience life as her employees did. She wanted to understand their struggles. During this time, she grew closer to Marisol. The two women bonded over shared lunches and late-night conversations. Clara learned about Marisol's dreams of going back to school, her fears of not being able to provide for her children, and her quiet hope for a better future. "Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck," Marisol confessed one evening. "Like no matter how hard I work, I'll never get ahead." Clara's heart ached for her. She wanted to tell Marisol the truth, that she was the CEO, that she was going to fix everything, but she knew it wasn't the right time. Instead, she offered words of encouragement. "You're stronger than you think, Marisol," Clara said. "And you're not alone. Things will get better. I promise." As the days turned into weeks, Clara continued to observe and learn. She saw how Trent's harsh management style was driving employees away. She saw how the lack of communication from the corporate office was creating a sense of hopelessness. And she saw how small acts of kindness, like a smile or a word of encouragement, could make a world of difference. Finally, Clara decided it was time to act. She returned to corporate office, but not as Claire. She returned as Clara Bennett, the CEO. Her first order of business was to call a company-wide meeting. The day of the meeting, the room was filled with nervous energy. Employees from all levels of the company were there, including Trent and Marisol. Clara stood at the front of the room, her heart pounding. She knew this was her moment to make a difference. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady. "I know there's been a lot of uncertainty lately. I know many of you are struggling, and I know that I haven't been the leader you deserve." The room fell silent. All eyes were on her. "A few weeks ago, I made the decision to go undercover. I wanted to see our company through your eyes. And what I saw broke my heart. I saw hard-working people being treated unfairly. I saw a lack of communication and trust. And I saw a company that had lost its way." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But I also saw something else. I saw resilience. I saw hope. And I saw the potential for something great. That's why, starting today, things are going to change. We're going to rebuild this company together." Clara went on to announce a series of changes. She introduced a new minimum wage that was well above the industry standard. She implemented training programs for employees who wanted to advance their careers. And she made it clear that toxic behavior, like Trent's, would no longer be tolerated. As she spoke, she noticed expressions in the room change. Skepticism turned to hope. Fear turned to determination. And when she finished, the room erupted into applause. After the meeting, Clara sought out Marisol. The two women embraced, tears in their eyes. "You knew, didn't you?" Marisol asked. Clara nodded. "I did, and I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you sooner." Marisol smiled. "You don't have to apologize. You've given us all a second chance. And that's more than anyone could have asked for." As for Trent, he was given a choice: change his ways or leave the company. To everyone's surprise, he chose to stay. Over time, he began to soften. He started treating his team with respect and even became one of the company's most vocal advocates for change. The story of Clara Bennett and Bright Mart became a symbol of hope and transformation. It was a reminder that no matter how broken something may seem, it's never too late to fix it. It was a reminder that true leadership isn't about power. It's about empathy, courage, and the willingness to listen. And so, as the sun set on Riverton, Clara stood outside the Bright Mart store, watching as employees laughed and chatted, their spirits lifted. She knew there was still a long road ahead. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. She had seen the worst of the company, And now, she was determined to bring out the best. The moral of the story? True change starts with understanding. It starts with stepping into someone else's shoes and seeing the world through their eyes. Because only then can we truly make a difference.